Is the director of HR in a multinational company in Mumbai, and she has conducted a number of workshops of very big corporate heads, and she has a huge experience of resume reading and seeing the insights of the resume building, interacting, interviewing, and selecting top corporate heads. Um, I requested her if she could share, because I always think of teachers. I'm not no intention of you teachers getting these skills to get a job elsewhere. No, I'm sorry. I don't have that intention. My experience of interviewing teachers, and I've understood that they don't have a clear idea about the resume building. They are more emotional and less practical. And I request Latha to take over. Yes, Latha, take your floor.
Thank you, sir. Okay, good evening once again to all of you. I'll just share my screen. Is my screen up?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, so the second part of the session is all about resume building. Now, resume building is very important in terms of being able to present oneself in terms of a very short description about what you are and how can you contribute or how can you value add to a particular job that you're applying for. Now, let me take you through the session itself. Okay. Objective of today's session would be to provide a holistic perspective to be able to create an impressive resume. Now, if you see, we live in this era of a cookie cutter model, right? So right from our homes, our flats, or to the clothes we wear, most of the things are a cookie cutter model where there are standard designs, there are set formats. Things are made so easy because there are multiple templates available, there are multiple designs available. But what do you do to be able to stand out? Okay, because even in a society which has an identical layout plan of flats and homes, what do you do to make your house stand out, right? It's that little details, the accuracy, how clean your house looks. Okay, so there could be multiple angles or multiple perspectives to it to ensure that you stand out, right? So, or even the same label, people wearing the same label, okay, but one person wearing the label would be able to create that impact vis-a-vis the other person who's not taken care in terms of creating an overall impression. So that is what it can do. Today's session, that is what I'm planning to run you through. The small little details that we recruiters look at, or the small little details that we know but we miss out. Okay, so it'll be a combination of all these things. So the outcome at the end of the session, what you will be taking away is that you'll be able to write a fresh resume or fill in the gaps of an existing one that you have. Okay, not that everyone will need correction, but I'm sure there is a room for learning for each one of you present here. What's in a name? Okay. So, well, unlike some people who don't need introductions, okay, I'll just take an example. Does anybody know who calls himself Techno King? Any answers? Anybody who can chip in and let me know? Who calls himself? No Googling, please. I can't see you, so I'm not in a classroom or a physical session, so please don't Google.
Ma'am, no idea, frankly.
Okay. All right. So nonetheless, it's Elon Musk. He calls himself a techno king. Okay. Now, so does of course he handed Twitter over to Twitter was handed over to him by from Jack Dorsey. Okay. Now he left Twitter and he joined Block. Okay, that's again a big time firm if you Google. Okay, but and then he chose to give himself the name Blockhead. Okay, funny in reality, as in who calls himself a blockhead, but people like those didn't need an introduction. People like those don't need explanations. Okay, but we do, unfortunately. So our resume is our portfolio. Okay, and it should be given that kind of respect, that kind of time to be able to build it and put it in play. Okay. Now, the fun fact here is that anybody here, you see a Mona Lisa on the right hand corner. Why do you think I put that there? Any guesses?
Because we know her name.
All right. Then you should also know that the person who created Mona Lisa is given credit for having created the first resume ever. Okay. He in the 14 so and something something, okay, is when he 1418 or something, where he made the first resume where he sent it to his so-called potential employer. So in fact, that's because that's why I said it's a piece of art. And so please, if Leonardo could shell out something from his side, somebody who was such a master creator, that is the kind of attention to details, to creativity, to innovate, to be able to stand out is what we should be able to put in place when we are building our own resume. I think one thing we know is that it comes from a French word. I mean, resume, even the way you write resume is very different. It comes from a French word. But yes, it definitely needs to be that piece of art for ourselves. Okay, very quickly. You know that there are three sections to a resume, right? The first section, the topmost section, would be the name, the objective, and a brief summary about oneself. Okay. I'll get into further details on what to write and all of that. Okay, very quickly again. But let me take you through what comprises the resume. The introduction section, then you have a main body section, which has your employment related details, your educational qualifications, your additional certifications, and the awards and recognitions that you would have received. And of course, the last part of it is the personal details and any other. Okay, these would be the three sections, right? Okay, now getting a little more detail into the do's and don'ts when you cover these sections. Okay, do's. Format, the one of the very first things, please choose a very professional format. Okay, do not get into very decorative margins or too many lines or too many, or sometimes even colors. Believe me, I've seen resumes which are colored also. I've seen resumes which are online copies which have things, there are some fonts blinking or things encircled. Honestly, it generally puts off anybody who sees, right? So please stick to a very simple, crisp format. Okay, very professional format. Now, the kind of typical question I get asked is, what is the font type to use? What is the size to be used? Now, Calibri, Verdana, and Arial. Now, these are considered, formal fonts to be used, and the size is ranging anywhere between 10 to 12. A safe, that's the range you should choose from. Some of the lines could have a smaller font like 9 or 10, and the bigger ones can go up to a 12. So typically, these are the fonts which you should be using: font type and font size. Please use font size to separate sections. Okay, now you could use a slightly higher font size to be able to separate a particular section. So if it is, say, one employer vis-a-vis the other, so you could use a little slightly higher font to be able to say that you worked, this tenure was spent in this school or this organization or this institution. And then you have, a smaller font below that. And then when you talk about the next employer or the previous employer, you go back to the same font that you used for the first one. So that is in terms of using font size to separate sections. Okay. When it comes to margin and spacing, typically a 1-inch margin is considered the standard margin, across all resumes. And spacing would be anywhere between 1 to 1.5 line spacing is what is considered apt. Now, again, the commonly dished out advice is do not ensure that it all comes in. A good resume is that which comes in one page. Okay, that's a typical corporate thing with which kind of there was a GAN floating around a few years back. But honestly, we recruiters need a little more than that. That is practically speaking. So two-page resume is considered a decent length. Okay, it is not too much, too not you where you're not going overboard. You're constantly keeping a check on how much you're writing. At the same time, it's not too little either. So I'm sure 2 pages are enough to cover the length of the tenure that you've held, and it's also a matter of you going back and shortening the sentences. So each time you go back and you read again, you'll be able to shorten further. So please spend some time to ensure that your resume does not cross two, at the max 2.5, 3. I mean, 3 is the max that I would appreciate. Anything actually more than 2 becomes a little too much, but 3 is at the max that is digestible. Okay, dish out a crisp summary. Now, why is this important? Now, if you go to a restaurant and you look at the menu card, sometimes you just have names written on that. Sometimes you have a little description there, right? So that little description gives you a little flavor, imagination in your head of what this dish is going to come to you as, right? It gives you a little clarity of what's coming. You're not waiting in anticipation or anxious, oh God, what have I ordered? So there is a little bit of build up before the actual content. So that is what your summary is. Please spend time, make it crisp and make it flavorful. The order. Now, chronological order is typically what you follow when you, put across your employment details, right? Chronological order should be from today's current employment and reverse order, right? So you start with the recent first and move on to the older ones as you go down. That's the ideal order, because people will want to understand where you are right now first and then look at what you've done earlier. Use of action words. Okay, so now this again, do not use too long sentences of, say, I managed a large group of people with and worked with this department, that X department, Y department, Z department. Do not write sentences like that. You can say you spearheaded a lot of assignments, collaborated with teams to be able to efficiently bring in a process together. So use a lot of action-oriented words. Use a lot of as in, do not make it too frivolous. Okay, at the same time, use very action-oriented words. So spearheaded, achieved, reduced the errors, or it could be accomplished. These are the kinds of words you should be using to be able to display what you bring to the table. Okay, and of course, please write what can be justified. Do not just dole out statements over there, because when an interviewer is sitting across the table and asking you questions as to, okay, you just mentioned you collaborated to be able to put together this event very successfully, you should be able to actually probably, and if they ask you to detail out what the event is, please be prepared as to what you will justify there, in terms of the number of teams you worked with, in terms of the time you spent in preparing the plan, the how much time did you spend executing, how many teams came together to execute that event. It could be a workshop, it could be annual day, it could be anything that you've handled. So please write what is justified, what can be justified. Okay, these are the typical do's. Of course, there are a lot of it, but I'm sure all that most of you would have it. These are things you could check for. Now, what are the don'ts? Okay, now don'ts would be, do not overdo anything. Don't make it too dramatic, too complex, too detailed, too many graphs, too many diagrams. And these days I see a lot of these services available to design formats, build resumes for people available. But if you go there, one thing I've seen definitely, some of them end up giving you a very, very dramatic, very, very, there are so many diagrams, so many charts, and so many bar graphs, and even pyramids for that matter. So I don't know what all am I looking at. Am I looking at my company's balance sheet, or am I looking at an individual's account? I can't understand. So please do not get into overdoing details, overdoing language also. Of course, restrain the drama. Some people use overly flowery language for themselves. They make it sound like they are the next best thing which has arrived on earth. Please ensure somebody is reading this after one has prepared it, to be able to tone this down if required. Okay. Include okay, it's not required to be including CGPAs or percentages when it comes to academic qualification, unless of course the person is a fresher. So anybody who holds experience, these are things typically which get checked later in most of the bigger institutions. In terms of what was the percentages, you typically get a separate form to fill up and write these details. Those details take up too much space on the resume. So restrict it to the qualification. That much is good. Yes, of course, if you're a gold medalist there, or a university topper over there, you can write it specifically under the awards, the achievements under the personal section. Okay. But there you need not mention your percentages unless asked for. I don't think that's required. Do not use a generic resume for all roles. Each role is different. So please, no, the good thing that you can do is create multiple templates of the same resume. Maybe two to three should be good enough. Three is also on the higher side. Try and keep two set, so that that if it is this kind of a role, everybody knows what kind of roles you will apply for, right? So keep those sets ready. So use specific resumes for specific roles. In the same manner, please use a good cover page and use separate cover pages for separate roles, because again, these two, if it goes with as an attachment, it should go hand in hand. So is a good cover page necessary? Yes, it is. A good cover page makes a very interesting read, okay, before the person jumps on to the main resume. A good cover page also gives the person an idea about what you are, how much pains have you taken to write down something, more than the resume, which is a very format driven thing to write. Okay, so in fact, bring in a little bit of out of the box thinking in the cover page, or if you're very good with vocabulary, use some bit of vocabulary there to be able to create a good cover page. A good cover page these days gets substituted with a good email summary when you're writing to the recruiter. So you could invariably, there are places which don't ask for a cover page, and there are places where the cover page is a must. So please decide, keep one content ready. Okay. And of course, depending on the number of roles that you're applying to, similar templates ready so that you can use the same. And of course, do not send without proofreading or, of course, attaching the document. We sometimes receive a very well written email, but without the document, leaves a very bad impression. So please ensure these are the definite don'ts. Okay, what covers in the personal details? Sorry, I'm going a little fast to be able to cover up. What entails the personal details? Now, it entails your interests. Please do not write everything and anything that you're interested in. Please pick up a few things that you can elaborate on if asked a question. That could be, related. People can sometimes relate it to political scenario. People can sometimes relate it to, some book that you've read. Only if you've read that book. If you've written reading books, or you're a voracious reader in the interest, please ensure you have actually read it in the first place. And of course, you're able to summarize. Then if somebody asks you a question, who was the author, if you give the name of the book, you should remember the author's name. These are the typical misses that I've noticed in interviews. So those, please put up interests which you can actually speak about, even if you have to speak about it for like 5 minutes. Sometimes we do that in terms of making a very creative interview. So if we pick up something which is their interest and ask them to elaborate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, Okay, so please pick up, write things which you can again justify here also. Again, I think awards and achievements I covered before. If you are really holding awards which are merited, okay, like a state level award or a school captain or these kind of things, or a gold medalist, please ensure these kind of achievements are awarded. Singing competition in class 8th and 10th, and ideally avoid these kind of achievements. Okay, location. Please remember to mention the location. For example, say if it is Mumbai, I would say Bandra in Mumbai, or I would say BKC in Mumbai, or if it is Chennai, you could say Adayar in Chennai, or if it is Bangalore, you could say Kasturi Nagar in Bangalore. So mention location, okay, that is important as a part of the contact detail. Also, sorry, that is in terms of the location. Date of birth is a necessity. Contact details, please ensure you have professional email IDs created. Do not use email IDs of, I've seen email IDs like sweetie123 and the original so and so. No, these things please avoid. Please ensure these are professional sounding email IDs. Typically just your name is good, or name with a maybe your date of birth is at the max, because I'm sure everybody doesn't get combinations, but please ensure that they sound professional. And the other, in terms of, please remember to mention your phone numbers. Now these are also typical misses that we have seen on the thing. Resume, they'll put up their email ID, or they'll forget their phone number, or the phone number will be there and the email ID will not be there. So please ensure these things are a definite must-haves in the personal section. What you can lose is reference available on request. That's no longer required. We typically, again, like I mentioned, if there are specifically, reference checks to be done, they will ask you that. If there are specifically academic checks they have to do, they will ask you for it. But this need not come on the resume. You can also lose the full address, your address of, for example, if it is Mumbai, BKC is good enough, Bandra is good enough. I don't need to specify which flat, which society, which area. All that is not required. So please lose that from your resume. All that also gives you a little space to be able to fill in the more relevant details into the resume. Okay, that's the personal details section. Now, a sneak peek into the recruiter's mind. Each recruiter, who's going through your resume, the first level recruiters who go through your resume, scan it in just 2 minutes. Okay, so 2 minutes is all you have to ensure that they read what you want them to read. Okay, so please ensure that you're able to catch attention. Now, how do you catch attention? Please remember, like in any session, okay, if it is too long a session, people will lose interest. It's the same thing with a resume or anything that you present to, right? So the top 1/3 is what people spend a lot of time reading. Then people just skim through, right? So please ensure, that's why a good summary is enough. Your recent employment is very important. Beyond that, they will only skim through, oh, okay, the person has also done this, also done this, also done this. But the first page is the most impactful page. All right. Keywords aligned to the job requirement. Please sit and scan through the job requirement which has come, the JD which has come, and ensure that the keywords that are used in the JD appears on your resume. So if you have to switch some words in your resume which are presently there, make a change over there, ensure that these are aligned, because these are the keywords that the first time recruiter, the first who first screens your resume will go through. Okay. And these are words they will click on saying, this is also there, this is also there, this person has done this. So ensure aligning your keywords to the job requirement. Whenever there are numbers, whenever there is a little bit of instance given there, do not explain without numbers. Okay, like I mentioned earlier also, please throw in numbers in terms of the impact it has created. You can say 50 webinars conducted, handled a workshop of around more than 500 people, or improved efficiency of processes from say 10% to bringing it up to 50%. But again, you will have to explain this 10 and 50 when you are actually uh, uh, giving the interview. So please mention, you put in numbers which you can justify. Okay. But this is more for the recruiter. The first level recruiter will need these things to be able to make an impactful, it will be necessary that you make this impactful, vision for the recruiter's mind. Okay. Next is the white spaces. Now you will ask me what these white spaces are, right? So if you look at a document, for example, if you take this very slide, okay, see, catch attention will catch your attention, vocabulary will catch your attention, right? And send, PDF, send as PDF which catches your attention, okay? Now, if you see, catch the between the first bullet point and the second bullet point, there is a little white space, right? Now, what typically happens is your eyeball will land between the first bullet point and the second bullet point. Now, if the slide has had more bullet points without any white space in between, people find it very difficult to, scroll through. Okay, so if you want eyeballs to be landing in a particular place, please ensure there is a white space in between. That helps. So you're leading the attention of the recruiter to the next thing that you want them to look at. So that's why sections are important. So, and between sections, ensure there is a spacing so that they land up from one to the next one very easily. Okay, vocabulary, keep it very simple. Okay, you could be really great in terms of articulating things, but please ensure articulation is also simple. Okay, and use jargons very carefully. When it is a first level screening, not the person who's screening it for the first time might not be able to understand all the jargons that you throw in. Okay, so please ensure that jargons are there, but it doesn't take so much space that the recruiter is all confused and is unable to make out whether you fit the requirement or not. And of course, last but not the least, send as a PDF because that avoids any format changes. Okay, so that is what recruiters look at. So that is the first level screening that I'm talking about. Okay, very quickly, I think it's almost the last slide that I am on. Okay, now when Leonardo created his first one, that was like centuries back, right? In today's world, what does your masterpiece require? Okay, now ATS compliant. Okay, now if you say ATS compliant, it is applicant tracking system compliant. Okay, now resumes, there are resumes formats available which are ATS compliant. Okay, now what is ATS compliant? These are computer scanning systems, okay, which scan your resume and pull in data directly from your online resume to their databases. Now, bigger institutions typically have these, okay. While you're making a resume, why don't you just ensure that it is ATS compliant? Because just in case tomorrow you're applying to a bigger institution which uses an ATS scanner, okay, this is compliant to that. So this is more to do with what to do for today's age or what is coming up for the future. So ensure it is ATS compliant. Ensure that it is clean and your online presence is clean and updated. So be it LinkedIn, be it any of the social forums that you would want to share. Some of these companies actually, I know, go and check Instagram, go and check social, Facebook. Again, it is more to see how, for example, if these are very crucial roles, okay, we say a project manager role or some very crucial or head of the institutional roles, they also go and check these kind of things as to how does this person appear, because the social media is actually giving away a lot of things these days. So these are also done in terms of checking for people's profile. So if you don't mind keeping updated with today's world, please clean up and update your social presence. LinkedIn being the number one sort. Include social profiles. There are social profile IDs available on LinkedIn and other such forums. Please use social profiles as a part of this thing. Always keep a short video resume handy. Okay, again, this is picking up very fast in the corporate world. I'm sure it will pick up with educational sector also, because as teachers and mentors, I'm sure a lot of you are required to present yourself, speak, present contents, present ideas. I'm sure this is following up very soon. Again, this is very futuristic, but these are trends to watch out for. Web URLs of projects, blog, and content. If you would want the person to go through some of the content that you have made, and this can be uploaded on certain drives, certain blog sections. If it is to do with IT teachers or IT professionals, okay, if you want to put out your IT related content over there, GitHub is there. So these kind of things are available now. A lot of these platforms are available to be able to showcase your projects, or if it is an event that you have conducted, you could have snippets of the event uploaded at a certain place, give a link to that for a person to be able to understand a workshop, a webinar, a sneak peek again into all of these, right? And include your online certifications and affiliations. This again has become a trend. Online certifications give an ID. So a lot of these bigger institutions ask for an online certification ID. So keep all this handy. And these are things which come handy in creation of things which stand out in today's world. And finally, write your resume, step back, come back to the table, write again, and keep doing this to and fro till you get it right. And if required, please take help, family, friends, colleagues, and there are professional services available also where people help you get these things together. So please take help if required, but do spend effort and time creating this masterpiece. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the session. I hope I have been able to manage some cover up over there. Any questions and any clarifications?
Can you give an example? Can you give an
I was
example
expecting
for
the same. Ma'am, any sample, please?
Sample,
no.
okay.
I want to know if you
Huh.
can give an example of an affiliation or this one online certification for principals.
In terms of online certifications, you have Coursera. I mean, I'm from the corporate world, so Coursera, Udemy. These are the certification, online certifications, or even universities for that matter. You have a lot of these university who, be it even IIMs or be it even Auxiliaries or be it even, I'm sure there are other colleges too who give out online certifications. Now, each of these online certification will have an ID created for you. That is what I'm talking about. Any of the online certification will come, and specifically from a institute or a university or a recognized forum will have an ID certification.
What about affiliation?
Affiliation to any group. So if it is an affiliation, for example, okay, now affiliations again is a lot of if you're affiliated to a teachers group or an affiliation to a for example, in corporate world, I know a lot of them. For example, there are affiliations to chartered accountant groups, okay, affiliations to NSM certification groups. Okay, so there are affiliations to a lot of groups available. Probably Dr. Tangadura, if you can help me with any of these which are available for teachers, if you can add on to suit the context.
Basically, many of these universities online, they do have a very a course for principals and teachers as well for leadership training. For example, even I attended during my earlier days at IIM, Ahmedabad, on strategic leadership in school. So whether it is leadership, usually on leadership, you have if you can Google and you find there's a lot of online institutions and coveted institutions and universities which are conducting courses which will give you a lot of insights, particularly as Latha was saying in an interview, where you would be able to respond to some questions. For example, very recently, I think day before yesterday, I was interviewed. I was not interviewed for a job. After 43 years, I chose to retire. But he is doing a doctorate in education, and he has a very unique topic which I was interested to help him, and that was personal mastery and peak performance mindset. What was that personal mastery which made me become what I am, I am now? He wanted all that, and he actually put various kinds of questions to elicit that. When I finally finished that interview, I felt I've been able to answer so many things which I never thought I was doing. And he is going to publish this, he's going to get a doctorate, and probably he will make a revolution in terms of leadership. So, in this context, I suggest you online is now very, very accessible in so many ways. You can do whenever you get time. I think many of them can be done on an online platform, and upgrade and enhance your proficiency, your, I won't say qualification, the self-esteem which comes through learning and getting insights is universities and institutions. Keep going and be a pedagogical lead. That's a very important thing, how you would outshine compared to others. Somebody has posted in the chat that am I going to conduct NEP programs? Yes, both in person and webinars. It will continue. In person is that I need to have a invitation from your school. I don't mind traveling. I'm able to travel now freely. And webinars, my next webinar will be on 8th of April on the second aspect of learning skills, which aligns with NEP. I've tried to complete the 5 skills in 5 different sessions. Wishing you all the best, and thank you.
Thank you.